My recording. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. To all of my friends and all of my contacts in my network and my clients, I have a very special guest today. I have made contact with someone through referral, a friend of mine on Facebook. Just seeing my interviews has introduced me, made me make contact with a Dr. John Lindsay. And Dr. Lindsay is from Australia. So we are on massive time change difference. I'm at 5 a.m. and Dr. Lindsay is at 7 p.m. So we have coordinated to have a little bit of time to talk. I've never had a chance to speak with Dr. Lindsay before. I've only just been referred to him. I've taken a look at his page and seen how interesting his perspective and point of view is, and I reached out to him to have some dialogue. Dr. Lindsay is a naturopathic doctor, a chiropractic doctor, and an osteopathic doctor. So he has 3 degrees. He's 87 years old, so he's got a lifetime of experience. What a jewel to find and have this experience and make this relationship. So I'm super excited to be able to share this. He's been a raw foodist since 1963. So that's 50 years. I'm not sure, 50 years plus. And he got into raw food because of some illnesses that he had, and that led him to trying to heal himself. He lived with migraines, arthritis, and asthma, and was able to change those things by moving to a raw food diet. And after that has continued his life. I'm sorry, we've got some technical difficulties, it seems, and I'm not able to see Dr. Lindsay. However, we do have a good voice connection. So this will be only visible to seeing me, but you will be able to hear Dr. Lindsay, and hopefully we will have some further dialogue, some further conversation, and we'll be able to see him more visibly. Dr. Lindsay?
Yes.
You are there.
Perhaps what I should say is that my name is John Lindsay Fielder.
John Lindsay Fielder. Yes, sorry. Right. Dr. Lindsay, so I quickly went over that your entry point to this was that you had some illness.
Yes. And I was so happy when I experienced the healing. And I have found that in all the years since then, that nature always will heal us from our problems, our diseases, if we will trust her.
So that's a great one you just said right there, because I really like that I think right away leads us right into faith.
Yes.
There must be faith, correct, sir?
Definitely.
Yes, and I think that's really important one, because I find with my customers that trying to move them into this alternative lifestyle, and it shouldn't be the alternative lifestyle; it should be the first and priority lifestyle. But it's described as the alternative lifestyle. But
I agree.
They can be sometimes stuck with one foot in kind of the mainstream, yeah, and one foot in this new idea, and not sure which way to go or what to believe. And as long as they're, I think, serving 2 masters, they're stuck.
Exactly. And you can't do that.
No. You can't succeed in either as long as you're divided.
You can't walk in 2 directions at the same time.
Exactly. So there has to be a decision. There has to be a commitment that's made within the self.
Yes. And one of the interesting factors that people tend to overlook is the fact that we can do everything that's right as far as diet and exercise and sunlight and so on. But if we don't, we can still kill ourselves with the thoughts in our own mind.
Excellent, excellent. Exactly what I have found with myself.
Yes.
And that I found that as I have moved more deeply into the process, my entry point was the Mucusless Diet by Dr. Eric.
Yes.
So I read that book, and I read it just all night long when I first found it. And as soon as I found it, I was just like, wow, this just explains everything. And I felt like I had internalized it that night, but I hadn't really. I had only just made the initial introduction, and I had to move through the process of actually removing toxic elements from my life. And in the process, my thoughts became more aware. My incorrect thoughts became more aware.
Yes, exactly.
And so the transition continued further as I moved through the process.
And the people who are perhaps approaching it from a spiritual viewpoint, all they have to do is remember that it says in the Bible, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
As a man thinketh is such a wonderful document.
Yes, exactly.
I love that document.
Mm.
And I'll make that document available along with this presentation when I share it to my customers, because it's such a valuable document. Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. So my next words that I've got on my page are just healing and disease.
Yes. But if we realize perhaps the most important factor is to understand, and this is all based on good science, even though you won't hear it from the medical profession, that disease, acute disease, is only our body healing us. It's not something attacking us at all. The so-called, well, not the so-called, but the germs, the bacteria, the virus and so on, they're our friends, not our enemies. They are endeavouring and working as hard as they can to overcome the problems that we've given them. They're helping in this process of healing. And there was a Professor Beauchamp in France who was a contemporary of Pasteur, and he was a scientist, whereas Pasteur was only a chemist. And he showed this, but he wasn't a man who was out there blowing his own horn like Pasteur. And Pasteur, at the end of his life, had to admit, and he did admit, that it's not the bacteria, it's the medium that is the problem. And we're the person that actually caused the medium by our habits.
So incorrect thoughts drive us into incorrect habits.
Yes,
And
exactly. Exactly.
so the problem at its root is always a thought.
Yes.
Exactly what I find and exactly what I share is that
Yes.
it's to change the thoughts is where the healing happens. And I love what you said. The disease isn't bad.
No, it's good.
Because it
It's our
shines a
friend.
spotlight on.
Yes.
It brings our attention to the problem.
It's the body in action.
Right. And I think that leads into, good and bad.
Yes.
Duality.
Well, it leads to good, and it leads to good if we are having faith in it, and it leads to bad if we don't have faith in it.
Right. And my thought was, that, because I do talk about this too, duality, that, there is no really good or bad.
Mm.
That there is just kind of a positive and negative, a movement of energy, and it's not that one side is good and one side is bad. And we often label things as kind of good and bad, and we get caught up in this idea that we only want a certain thing or certain outcome, a certain expectation. This is a problem.
Yes, it's a fascinating discussion, that one, because in some ways it's a philosophical one, because all things work to the good thereof. It's just how we see them.
Perspective. Right. And this is the trouble a lot of the time, is that we get attached to one desire, weight loss or more money or more material things, or a different type of relationship, or our mates or partners or people to be in a certain way or look a certain way. And we have these expectations in our mind of what we want. And as long as it's not that way, then it's not good.
Yes. To me, what you're saying is we need to look at the whole, not one single aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Wholeness. Yes.
Yeah.
We need to integrate the left and right hemispheres of the brain. I talk about the pranic breath and balancing, so below, so above, so below the two sides. I talk about grounding. I talk about the sunlight. I know you talk about the sunlight.
Yes.
What do you say about the sunlight?
Without sunlight, there's no life at all. And that goes for not only us as human beings, but it goes for the whole of life on the planet. If you don't have sunlight, there is no life. And if we can, shall we say, overdo it, definitely, if we're not careful. But it's like everything else. You can overdo the amount of food you eat. You can overdo the amount of exercise you get. You can overdo the amount of rest you get. And so it goes on. There has to be a balance.
And I think it really does depend on how much melanin you have in your skin.
Yes. Exactly.
So if you're fair-skinned, obviously you don't need as much sunlight exposure on the skin. And if you're darker skinned, you need more.
Mm.
Yes. And
to me, I always look at it, I've always voiced it in this way, that just as much as we're externally all different, we're just as different internally. And our needs as a person are all different according to how our body functions in that differences of ability to function.
excellent. So personalized programs, personalized nutrition plans, personalized requirements for all things for the healing to happen.
Exactly. We mustn't think that because so-and-so can exercise for so many hours a day and feels great benefit from it, that we ourselves need to exercise for those same number of hours. We might need to exercise more, or we might need to exercise less.
And I think that's a really good one, because I do see often, if I do make any posts about nutrition or about fasting, or, it's always that people really gravitate to, what foods or what fruits or how long did you fast or what specifically did you do. And people get so caught up on a protocol,
Yes.
trying to follow a specific protocol as if it's a puzzle that you can just follow, a method that you can just follow.
I've often used the term, we need to learn to listen to the voice of the organism.
The voice within.
Yes, exactly.
The power within.
Yes.
Yes, I talk about this. Yes.
Each one of us has our own voice or our own power.
Our own passion, our own desire.
Yes.
Nice.
Our own need.
Very nice. And I've never spoken with you before, sir. And I feel like, I've arrived at a place you've obviously been for many years, but I'm coming close on your heels. And it's amazing that we can be converging at that point just from me going within.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, I've found that is one of the most important things for each of us to learn, is to learn to listen to our own body.
Mindfulness, meditation?
Exactly.
Yes.
That's another way, and it's a wonderful way of putting it. Thank you.
Wonderful. I do talk about that a lot as well too. I think that's a very important part of the healing process. And I tell people that we have to get in touch with our passion, with our desire, with our internal power through mindfulness, through meditation. And I encourage that first thing in the morning and again at the end of the day.
Good. That's wonderful. In actual fact, I find in myself, it's something which goes on continually.
Exactly. And I've grown into that. And I think it begins with having these kind of scheduled, organized times when it's most convenient, first thing in the morning and at the end of the day. And it's the most kind of reprogramming opportunity, the greatest reprogramming opportunity. And as we kind of grow that, it kind of morphs into the entire day.
Yes. Practice, practice, practice.
Practice, practice, practice. Yes, sir. I love it. I love it. What a gem. Excellent. Okay, so next on my list here, I've got nutrition.
Yes. Well, in my book, the ultimate in nutrition, of course, is again raw food and listening to what our body is telling us at that particular moment in time.
Listening to our bodies, like what it's calling for, what it's gravitating for, what it's craving.
Yes. And that's, as long as we are focusing on raw food, I found we don't make a mistake if we are listening to that particular part. But if we're thinking, oh, well, I'll perhaps have a hamburger or something like that, forget it. Our body doesn't.
You're going forwards and backwards. You can't do that.
No.
No. You've got to commit. You've got to commit.
Yes.
And once you really do, your desire for these things really does go away.
Yes.
Because
entirely.
Because you feel so much better.
And our body acts immediately. I would like to share a story I had.
Excellent.
Experience. This was in England. I was at a conference and we went to the conference dinner, and this is a conference that I have attended for years and years and years. And the dinner was always held at this same restaurant. And these people at the restaurant said, tell Dr. Fielder not to worry. We'll be sure to give him just what he needs in more food. So where before I'd always taken my own food. So this time I trusted them. I went there and they served me this cube of raw food. Well, they said it was raw food. I looked at it and I thought, I'm not sure about this. And then I tasted it and I thought, still, I'm not sure about this. But I thought, well, they are telling me that this is quite all right. It's all 100% raw food. So I ate a couple of mouthfuls. I spent the next 3 days vomiting and diarrhea.
Do you know what it was?
My body immediately threw it straight back. It wasn't what my body needed.
Interesting. I had a weekend last weekend where I had a couple of end of the year parties and events and birthdays, and I ate 3 days in a row, and I had very violent effects.
Yes.
So
Yes, our
I'm
body will
very
always
familiar.
tell us if we will listen.
Yes, I had a lot of pain. I couldn't sleep. Total digestive issues from indulging in common food.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, it seems that's the only way we really learn, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So I've
We
only
all,
been
yes, we all seem to need to learn to burn our fingers from time to remind us.
putting our hand on the hot stove. Um, so raw food will heal cancer, diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, all disease, sir.
Raw food does not heal anything.
Excellent.
It's our body that has the healing.
There we
All
go.
we're providing when we eat raw food is the right conditions, the right environment to enable our body to do what it needs to do,
All
or what
right.
it can do.
Thank you. The healing is done within the self.
Yes, it's just the same as in your car. The petrol is not, it provides the right condition to enable the pistons to go up and down and so on. It doesn't drive the car, really.
So creating the alkaline environment,
Yes,
the natural environment, because we are alkaline and electric.
exactly.
Yes. Awesome. And so if we restore the alkaline electric environment, then all diseases can heal within the self.
Yes,
Excellent.
there's the possibility of this happening, realizing that there is a stage perhaps where we can be beyond it,
Beyond food?
beyond ability of our body to heal it, heal itself. We may have,
We could be too far gone.
yes,
Okay, yes.
there's a possibility of that happening. Of course, this is an individual thing. Again, we come back to the individuality of our own individual organism. You know, it's like shoveling a pile of dirt, you might say. You can be full of vim and vitality and go there and shovel that easily. Whereas a person who is already in a stage of major destruction of their bodily function doesn't have the ability or energy to even pick up the shovel, perhaps.
So you can be too sick to heal.
Yes, you can be at the point where your body hasn't got sufficient ability or energy to recover. That can occur.
And I wonder too if the mind is such a huge part of that.
Yes, very much.
Because if you have not, because if you've identified with these diseases so much, or taken the identity of the sickness so much, and you believe you have this sickness, and you believe so adamantly that there's no cure, that even when the cure is introduced, uh, you can't heal unless you believe
Mm.
that
Plus,
this is a
there's
possibility.
also the other factor that take a person who's had been radiation therapy or chemotherapy, and they can get to a stage where it doesn't matter. They can come to realize that this is only killing me and change their habits. But there's been so much destruction already that has occurred to their body that it's unable to regenerate itself from the radiation or from the chemotherapy.
They're in the process of dying.
Yes.
Wow. Sad but true. Okay. My next one. I mean, obviously, um, yeah. Okay, fasting, sir.
Uh, Fasting is the most natural and the most perhaps effective tool we have to enable healing to occur in our body. Because when we fast, that is, drink water only and rest in bed, we release all the energy that we would be using in other ways for healing. And so all that energy can then go and be concentrated on healing. To give you an illustration, if you broke your arm and you came to me and you allowed me to set it and put it in a splint, not in a cast, in a splint, which enabled you to take it out, put it in the sunshine and things like that, and you went to bed and you fasted with a positive mind attitude, I would be willing to give you a written guarantee that your arm will heal in close on half the time. In some instances, even less than it would if it was put in a cast. And you wouldn't have any residual problems afterwards where you couldn't do things for some time until you'd built up the muscular strata and such like. You would be able to do them straight away.
So, if you break your arm, you could actually lay in bed and fast, and it'll heal in half the time or less
Yeah,
without a cast on.
yes, as long as it's in a splint that's holding it there for you, keeping it immobile when you're sleeping and things like that, so that the bone isn't being put out of place by activity. But you can take it out and put it in the sunshine, or you can leave it in the splint and put it in the sunshine. You can massage it. You can,
Put it in the sunlight.
yes.
Excellent. Excellent. I love that. I love that. Um, while we're on the fasting, something that's been just pulling me like crazy for the last year, I've been very motivated by. I wonder if you have any experience or knowledge of the breatharian lifestyle.
Yes, I have. I have. Um, I am not a breatharian. I don't believe that it is the way that we would naturally live. And in actual fact, I have had personal experience with breatharians coming to me, and they have, on the occasion, they have come back to me. I've later in years and said to me, shook my hand and said, I am so thankful you saved my life.
How come?
Because I got them back from being a breatharian on to whole raw food.
Whole raw food is the way.
Yes.
And what's the problem with the breatharian lifestyle, sir?
The problem is our body is, we have a digestive tract. It's meant to have food put in it. That's the way our body functions. It doesn't function just on breath. Our breath is
There's a
important.
physical requirement that must be met.
Yes, a physiological requirement, and perhaps even a psychological requirement.
Very interesting. Thank you. Medication.
This is an interesting, any medication, doesn't matter whether it's homeopathic or Ayurvedic or medical or whatever. All it does is suppress the symptoms. It doesn't deal with the cause. It stops the natural healing power of the body.
Eliminate all medications.
Yes, definitely.
Eliminate all substance, foreign substance.
Yes.
Coffee.
Yes, coffee, tea, alcohol.
Cigarettes.
Alcohol
cannabis.
Alcohol is an interesting one because alcohol is a protoplasmic poison, and we're only protoplasm, and yet we consider it as a major drug to take into our body as a recreational thing every day in our society.
To calm ourselves from work. to cope with our day.
I'm not sure whether I should get carried away too much on alcohol. It's such a crazy, crazy thing.
I agree. And I encourage my customers to, I say at first, let's keep it on the weekend.
Yes.
At least. Because they're used to doing it daily.
Sorry?
They're so accustomed to doing it daily.
Yes. People, I know, the people I'm around, they consider that they have missed out on something if they don't get to drinking alcohol.
Right.
Every day.
Coffee, though, too.
Yes.
Same thing.
Coffee, tea, all these things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're all stimulants.
Yeah.
And stimulation is going to end with innovation. And innovation is one of the bases of disease.
What did you say? It's innovation?
Yes.
I'm not familiar with that term.
It means that it uses up our energy.
And we need the energy for the healing process.
Yes.
So any distraction from that will distract from the healing process.
Exactly.
Excellent.
It's so important.
All right. I've got here grounding. Do you do any grounding? I do recommend it. I'm wondering if you have any knowledge, experience, or sharing that you'd like to add.
I love grounding. I think it's very important. From the earth you came, to the earth you must return. You need to be in contact with all of the elements, the fresh air, sunlight, the earth, and so on, because
Excellent.
that is what we are.
Excellent.
I will share with you another instance of my own life where this is 40 years ago. I was poisoned by 7 different poisons, including strychnine and arsenic. And according to the research that I've done on it, nobody ever has survived such a poisoning. But I did. It took 6 months, but for at least about 4 months of that 6 months, I spent most of the day lying in contact with the earth, out in the fresh air and sunlight.
How did you get poisoned by that?
I was actually working with a friend of mine, helping him to build his house. And this poison was used at that time for treating the timber to keep the termites out. And he was feeding the timber to me, and a piece of it grazed my thigh, and the poison went through my whole system. From the treatment of that timber. It came up like a huge carbuncle. And I could be in a room adjoining a room, and you could walk into that adjoining room and you could smell it from there as the body was exuding this poison from my system.
So
you
laid on the ground in the sun.
Yes. Well, actually, I was sitting on the ground because I had a wall to sit on. I could get out there in the sunlight every day. And this went on for 17 weeks, which is over 4 months, or 4 months. I used to go and just sit there from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Amazing. Amazing share. Thank you, sir. What about distilled water?
Distilled water, I think it's more natural for us to drink rainwater, clean rainwater. But of course, if you can't get that, the next best is distilled water.
So filtered rainwater?
Yes. I have rainwater tanks on my property, and that's the only water we drink.
Distilled water, then rainwater, the only clean water.
Yes.
A lot of people that I've talked to, that I'm talking to, that I'm friends with, are talking about urine therapy.
Talking about, would you repeat that last bit?
Urine therapy.
Ah, urine therapy. Yes. Well, to me, this is another form of drug. The kidneys are eliminating the poisons from our body. We don't need them. I think we're far better off not using urine. I think it's better not to do so.
Excellent.
I would not do so myself.
Excellent. Spirituality.
I think we're spiritual beings. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And whether I'm not a religious person, I would not say you have to believe in this religion or that religion, but I do believe there is a spirit of life. But I cannot say how I would explain that any further than that. I can just accept it.
Religion is different.
I mentioned, repeat, please.
Religion is different than spirituality.
I'm not sure that I understand you. For a minute.
Do you think there's a difference between religion and spirituality?
Oh, definitely. A major difference.
Why?
Why? Because in spirituality, you understand that you have a spirit that moves you, and that is the basis of your life. Whereas in religion teaches all sorts of sources of the spirituality, and
outside of the self, sources outside of the self.
Yes.
And then there's things that we have to do in order to get into the religion.
Exactly.
And spirituality is for everyone.
Exactly.
We all have a spirit.
Mm.
And we all have access to it.
Exactly.
And we always have access to it.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
Without limitation or boundary.
That's
excellent. I love that. Loving yourself.
Yes, I think this is so important overall. We come into the realm of psychology, don't we? Now we're talking about the psychological effects and such like, and we start to then have to look at our background, because how we were brought up, how our parents actually brought us up, and how our parents treated us. And so many people today are in that situation where they don't love themselves because their parents have told them that they're no good. They don't, whatever it is, and they're not worth anything, and so on.
So again, it comes down to incorrect thoughts.
Yes,
incorrect
exactly.
thoughts that we got from an incorrect environment that we were in, whether it was a parent-child relationship or a friendly relationship or a negative relationship in our life.
Exactly.
And we've internalized an incorrect thought that we must correct and heal and eliminate from our life.
Yes.
So whether that thought is that we have this disease, or we need to eat this meat or this protein requirement, or that there's not enough nutrition in fruits and vegetables,
yes,
or we need this alcohol or this coffee to be happy.
Mm. Yes, I sort of like there's a couple of old sayings where we can repeat to ourselves, and they are, I can, I can, I can, I can. And the other one is, I will, I will, I will, I will.
And these are affirmations for healing or changing.
Yes, exactly.
Affirmations. I talk about affirmations. I talk about using the words I am. I talk about gratitude. I talk about goal setting. I think all of these things are valuable and important parts of healing the self, loving the self, knowing the self, reaching the passionate energy within the self, connecting with the spirit.
I agree entirely. That is so true.
Nice. Relationships.
This is a again, it comes back to a very large degree of the environment we were brought up in, doesn't it? And I have written a book called The Hygienic and Natural, well, the Natural and Hygienic Care of Children. And in it, I have a chapter on the children of the Murya in India. The Murya in India are known as the happiest people anybody has ever known. And they're written up by a cleric, a Barry Irwin, who was an Anglican cleric who went there to convert them to Anglicanism. And he became converted to their way of life. And he ended up by marrying one of their women.
Wow.
And the children are brought up right from the point of what we would call nappy trained, where they live primarily, but not only, in what they call the children's houses. And in these children's houses, they had to live by the laws of the village, but they also have their own parliament, and they draw up their own laws, which are over and above the laws of the village as well. And they learn about one another quite naturally, and they come to having sexual relations quite naturally as they grow up. It's a part of their growing. It's not a taboo thing. It's not something that is sinful and such like, the terms that we use. And you have to wait till you're married before you do this or you do that or whatever.
A more free, loving environment that the humans are growing up in, rather than with the boundaries of religion and society and expectation.
Exactly.
Requirement. And more organic relationship.
There is another group of the southeast coast of Papua New Guinea called the Trobriand Islands. And the Trobriand Islanders also practice this way. And although I have been in India, I've never had the opportunity of visiting the Murya, but I have had the opportunity of being with people who have been to the Trobriand Islands. And they tell me exactly the same thing when I ask them, how do you find these people? Are they happy people? And they always say, they are the happiest people I have ever known. Which speaks for itself, I think.
So relationship is an enormous part of happiness.
Yes.
Physical contact, loving our partners, the gift that we've been given, our partnership, the people that are closest to us, the relationships we have around us. And I always talk about being in harmony with all aspects of your life.
Yes.
Getting into harmony with all aspects of the life. Okay. Sir, this has been a fantastic introduction talk time. I look forward to hopefully talking with you some more and sharing some more information and insight with you, and reaching out to you and with you on Facebook to share each other's information, and hopefully have comments from you and with you. I'm glad I got this chance to talk with you today. I think it adds a lot of credibility and validity, because I don't have these degrees that you do, and I appreciate your life of experience. Just fantastic to have all of that information shared today.
Thank you very much, John. It's been lovely being with you and sharing with you, and I look forward to doing so again at some future time.
Sir, is there anything that you would like to to talk about that you've got coming up, a book or anything you're working on, or is there anything that you're doing that you'd like to put light to?
Um, in some ways, you might say that there's too much that we haven't touched on yet, isn't there? And I'm happy to go with the flow, to deal with the questions as you raise them.
All
And
right, all right.
it'll be wonderful to be able to share our experiences with our listeners and viewers.
Excellent. Excellent. So please feel free to, if at any time there's anything that you want to share or talk about, please do that on my page anytime, or comment, or please add. I love having this new relationship with you. All right. I'm going to end it there before we get going too long. And I hope we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.